Hey, movie fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Uncharted Media podcast. This is episode 224. So, we teased on our various social medias that this was a big episode. We've got big news for you, which is 100% true, but it might not be like big news in the sense of what you kind of might want to hear.
Yeah.
It's big news on the other end of the spectrum. The Uncharted Media Podcast, episode 224, will be the last episode of the Uncharted Media Podcast for the time being. We're not saying this is the last one. I'm sure I'll say this again later, but in the words of every Shinedown concert ever, it's not goodbye, it's see you later, or see you again, or something like that. I forget what the exact verbiage is. I'll look it up for later. But we've been doing this show for over 4.5 years now. This September will be 5 years. And
Jeez.
minus like the 2 weeks that we take off from for Christmas break and the end of the year, whatnot, just to recoup, we've never really had a prolonged break. Josh has like floated on and off from time to time, and we've had people sub in, but there's some other things that have come up now for the best that I think necessitate a break away from the podcast. We'll get into it all in a little bit here, but this is not the end of Uncharted Media. I will still be covering movie news. That way I can still pump out some content for you guys, movie reviews. We could talk about the Nightwing project later, because that is... I'm farther along now on that than I've ever been, which sounds like an obvious statement, but it's true. Again, we're not shutting the door on the podcast forever, but it's after this week, after this episode, it's going to be going on hiatus for quite a while. Josh, do you want to kind of go into a little bit more what you want to go into?
If we're looking for blame, we can place it on me.
It's not all on you. I'm feeling a little burnt out, if I'm being honest.
I mean, that's fair. Because sometimes some weeks are kind of hard just because there's not always a lot of news. And you and I have always had the philosophy when it comes to news, to movie news, to not like grasp at straws, to not really dabble in unconfirmed or unbased rumors and stuff like that. So like sometimes some weeks can get really, really light. I personally have had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life. I'm taking a new job that I start next week that is going to put me in a kind of a remote situation.
Josh got hired for the menu, basically.
Essentially, yeah. I'm working in a kitchen on an island off the coast.
He's working for A Fines.
Yeah. But like, it was just hilarious when I came to tell you, and you were like, wait, because oddly enough, you're not the only person that was like, so you're working for the menu. That's crazy. Okay.
But I'm probably one of the few people that actually saw the menu.
Yeah, totally. Quite few even liked it. Anyway,
it's not that bad. It's just
yeah, no, it's fine. I am most of this. We are getting kind of burnt out, but at the same time, some of this is I was offered a kind of opportunity, one that would be very hard to say no to. It's free housing, free meals, learning stuff that I've never learned before, and living in a part of the world that I'm a part of the U.S. that I've never lived before, and that's all kinds of very, very exciting. And because of that, it's because of the work schedule I'm potentially going to have, and because potentially the lack of internet connection that I'm going to be having, I'm going to have to step away. But like, it definitely, like, the podcast itself, I know. Nathan does a lot. You do a lot for this. You're the one that, edits it all. You're the one that makes sure that we have news every week. And I, do research to best of my ability, but obviously, like, we both have very, very busy lives. So it's also very, very difficult. It's kind of sad, but like, I would be lying if I said there's a part of me that was kind of a little bit relieved, a little bit. I don't know, because like you and I are going to stay friends no matter what. The
Yeah.
podcast doesn't necessarily necessitate that, but it is it's gonna be kind of nice to have a break, if I'm
Yeah,
being honest.
I am of two minds because, like Josh said, I went into this podcast thinking, all right, I'll do podcasts because it's going to be easier than video stuff, which it's easier still to do this than like make a video every single week. But at the same time, as we made the
Yeah.
transition to video around the time of the 100th episode, and especially breaking it up the news topics into individual segments,
Mhm.
which has proved very beneficial in the long term for us. More people enjoy the news segments than they do the long form podcast, which is totally fine. I totally get that. But in doing that, I'm always striving to make the podcast and our content as good as it can be. If you look at the first episode to where it is now, I think we've come a long,
big
long
jump.
way. Audio wise, we do videos now. But with that, there's a solid 2 nights of the week on top of my regular job that's just this, like
Mhm.
getting stuff prepped for the show, doing all the custom graphics for each week. And then the editing that comes with it, like after we record and whatnot, trying to make everything work. But at the same time, like I said, this is over 4.5 years of our lives that we have had some form of a routine to. So not having it is going to feel kind of weird. And again, we don't know what the future holds. I'm labeling it as like a professional apprenticeship, essentially.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But like that has a set end date that could launch
It does.
Josh into a big career somewhere down the line, someplace that actually has internet and whatnot. So I'm looking at it from when this thing is done, we can come back to the table and say, did we miss this enough? Are we rejuvenated enough that we can come back to this? So that's why this episode is so long for now, because we might come back and bring the podcast back, but we just don't know. We don't know what the future holds. I've thought about this before, even before Josh took this job. Of he and I are both getting older, and it's harder and harder to find personal time for stuff on top of other things. Like we'll talk about it later. I'm determined I'm getting this Nightwing video done. So like, there's this weird dichotomy here of just like, do I want the podcast to continue? Yes and no, because like it gives a good outlet, but I'll still do news topics, but only now for the important stuff, as opposed to feeling like I need to include some to meet a podcast quota. Like if and when Superman is cast and David Cornsweet is whatever is cast as Superman, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about trailers, whatnot. And then I probably won't have to wait until a specific night to record those anymore. I could just hop on whenever. It'll just be me. That being said, it'll be weird just getting one person's perspective as opposed to two. So I have conflicting thoughts, but for the most part, like I feel like we have done everything we can to make the show as great as it can. It's not like I will always feel like I can do more, not just with this, that's just with everything from my job, with everything else. I always feel like I could do more, and I'll be sad because we've spent so much time into this. But at the same time, we have a big ass catalog for you guys to listen back to.
That is very true. Oh my gosh.
I feel like we can continue in a few months when this is all done. But if not, I feel like we've left this at a good enough spot of like, we can go on. So that's why this is up in the air. It could be goodbye forever. We're hoping not. We don't know. So for our discussion this week, we're just going to kind of look back on the life of this podcast, of like Josh and I's history, before the podcast, what led to the podcast, our favorite times with the podcast. It's all just a send-off, so to speak, a Viking send-off, if you will. Because it's all going to go down a blaze of glory. But yeah, I'm conflicted. Of just like, it'll be nice to have 2 nights of my night back of the week. Yeah. But it'll feel weird for a little bit to have those back. But like I said, this is not the end of Uncharted Media by any stretch of the imagination. I'll still get plenty of movie reviews out. I'm still hard at work on Nightwing 2 and a little bit of Nightwing Part 3 script even before I really should be. I want to do more editorial videos like I did the Top Gun one at the beginning of the year. I want to do one about how 2008 is like the most important year in movie history, even more so than 1999. I want to do a video version of how Holes and Shawshank are the exact same movie. Like, there's still stuff I want to do.
Yeah.
There's still stuff I want to do on the channel, and there'll still be stuff to do. It's just changes in routine are always going to be weird. Take some adjustments, but it's been a hell of a ride. It's weird, but
it is.
Before we get into everything else, Josh, you watching anything good lately or reading anything?
I finished Revenant, which is very different. The ending is much different than the movie. I found out that Hugh Glass is an actual historical figure. Did not know that he was a real dude. He's like, the book itself is fiction. It makes an effort to take real life events and kind of stitch them together in a fictional narrative. So the ending is fictional as well, because there's no like historical data or documents, whatever, that kind of tell the end of that kind of spat between Hugh Glass and Fitzgerald. But I like the movie better because I think it's more guttural in a sense. Basically, the differences are, if for those who have seen the Revenant movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, the ending is basically Hugh Glass and Fitzgerald beating the ever-loving crap out of each other, and Hugh Glass eventually coming up, having his revenge, and kind of looking off into the sky, trying to figure out what to do now that he's got his revenge. Well, in the second, in the book, there's like a weird like military trial, and like he like shoots Fitzgerald in the shoulder, and like that's kind of it, because then he gets put in military prison for assaulting a soldier. And then and then he just like he gets released, and then he kind of looks at the sky and like tries to like just move on and forgive, which is wild. It's just super weird.
So if Josh sees me making a face, it's because like there was like a thunderstorm, like a thunder roll that lasted a solid 30 seconds. That makes me go, are we really gonna lose power again on the potentially final episode? It would not be a proper send-off if we do not have some form of tech issues here. You watch, just halfway through this recording, we're just gonna lose everything.
Like that one time, the episode that'll never exist.
Oh God. we eventually did air that episode, but months after that, we just did a completely new version of it. Oh, that was
horrible.
Yeah, we could talk about that later.
Besides
Revenant,
finished Revenant. I got caught up on Demon Slayer, which is, for those that don't know, is one of the best animes ever made right now. I really haven't done much. Work has been really, really busy. My youngest brother graduated this weekend, so I really haven't had a whole lot of personal time. Tonight, because it is available for rent, I'm going to rent D&D Honor Among Thieves, and we're going to watch that tonight because, gosh, I've been itching to watch that.
I will be very curious to hear your thoughts on it because I watched it. God, I was underwhelmed. But here's the thing, Josh, I think you will love it. I know quite a few Warcraft players, not Warcraft players. It'll make sense why I slipped up here. I know quite a few D&D players that really enjoyed this movie. It embodies the chaotic fun that they know and love. Yeah. It feels a lot like the Warcraft movie to me, of like, if you know the material, you're really going to latch onto it and identify with it. It just, maybe it was too hyped for me because everyone was raving about how good it was. Don't get me wrong. There's a couple scenes that I really, really laughed out loud about how funny they were. But overall, it's just kind of like, it's not my speed. It's just fine. Everyone's fine. That's in fair. It. Chris Pine was Chris Pine, basically. Justice Smith actually wasn't the most annoying thing in the world, like Jurassic World. It was It's fine, but I have the sneaking suspicion that she will actually really like it.
That's fair.
And then watched a couple documentaries. I watched The Brothers Warner on HBO Max, which is basically just like the history of the Warner Brothers themselves that founded the company, because
Nice.
I like early film stuff. So, a critical component to a good documentary is who is telling the story and who is narrating the story and how good they can keep your attention. It is like the granddaughter or the great-granddaughter of one of the Warner Brothers themselves, and it's basically just like, here, let me go through my family photo album, and she's really not necessarily the most engaging or compelling host. Like, is also incredibly dry. It felt more not like a engaging and interesting documentary. It felt more like what plays in background of a museum somewhere that you walk through, or like when you walk through a museum and you stop at their little mini theater. This seems like what they would be playing in that little mini theater. Like it's well done, but dull as dirt. And then besides that, I stuck with the documentary train and watched Before Mickey Mouse: A History of American Animation, because animation is a genuine medium. Also mixed bag. This documentary originally came out in like 1983, so it was.
Jeez,
it's
older.
older.
A little dated.
Yeah, it's presented like something you'd see in a school, and I will say it does present a lot of very fascinating information, and I liked it better than the Brothers Warner. But it does feel like they're just padding out the runtime, but they're just like, and here's this old cartoon. We'll show you the entire cartoon because...
Yes.
But also, I feel like they didn't have the rights to some of the music in some of those old cartoons, so they use the same music a lot, and I'm just like, okay, I get it. Give me more information here. And then lastly, Disney World used to have a ride called the Great Movie Ride, and now it's Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad, and I despise that ride with every fiber of my being, because the Great Movie Ride was perfect, and you got rid of it right as you acquired Fox, and you could have put some of the Fox movies in that ride, but whatever. So basically, you go through famous scenes in movie history, and my goal has always been to watch every movie that was on that ride at one point or other, and one of them was 1931's The Public Enemy, starring James Cagney. I don't really get where they got the scenes from the Great Movie Ride in The Public Enemy. It's like a big gangster shootout in the ride. In the movie, there's like maybe like 3 shots fired in the entire thing. Like somebody has like a big old turret gun at the end that kills one dude, but that's about it. But also, I know Josh has had this issue when he was trying to do Classics Corner. Old movies can be a little uncomfortable to watch by today's standards of like how they choose to just like treat women, of like, hey, I got a dame at home, I got another one here in the club, and it's all dandy for me. Oh, there's another one that's interested in me. That's great. Oh, I'm just gonna slap you around because it's nice. And then, you know, they openly say that a woman assaulted a man while he was drunk, and I'm going, what? How is this ever okay? 30s or whatever else. Like, there's a lot of just stuff like, how is this okay? Just how they like, how the world was. I'm just like, let's just treat women like they're things. No racism, at least. Not that I can pick up on, but
because that was my big issue with Classic Corner. Yeah, because like not just like the cultural stuff, but like weird long takes, weird like
they don't know how to go from scene to scene. Scenes would just end, and also they like hop forward in time and be like, now we're in 1909, now we're in 1917. I'm just going, they don't know how to end scenes, so they just dissolve into the next scene, and it annoy the crap out of me.
Dude, and stuff like that, like people doing scenes to the camera, but like not looking straight at the camera instead of past the camera. It was just, it's so weird. And like, you can absolutely tell, obviously, like it's, visual effects has come a long way, but like you can tell when they're on a stage. You can tell when where they are is not actually there. You can tell when it's a matte painting. It definitely, at least for me, has always taken me out. So like, I know there are people out there that love old movies, and you know what? If that's your yum, I'm not gonna yuck it. But like, maybe like don't.
Let's get into some news, and shall we? As we're kind of light on news this week, but wow, budget cuts suck, don't they? As we've already kind of talked about, that Disney Plus is merging with Hulu to create one mega app, most likely in response to Max, which already has its critics already on day one. But ahead of that merger, it looks like Disney is going to be removing a butt ton of content, including such prize winners as the Artemis Fowl movie. I only put that because I just continue to want to rub salt on the wound that is the Artemis Fowl movie in Josh's like collective. Because as we talked about on the podcast, Josh said that this movie would be a success.
Okay, look. To me, and I think maybe it was you who sent me that video of like all the weird like editing things. It's very clear that at one point they had a movie that was exactly like the book and would have been way more interesting. But they neutered it, and that is why it's terrible. Like it is borderline not watchable. It makes me mad. But yeah, it's very interesting that all of this stuff like Artemis Fowl, Willow, Mighty Ducks Game Changers, like all these movies they're removing are like their properties technically. So it's like you're not really saving. How are you saving money by you're not buying? You don't have to pay for rights for your own movies to have them on your own streaming service, do you? That's preposterous to me.
Yeah, so I pull it up now. Let's see what all they've taken away. They're eliminating Big Shot. Okay.
What?
Turner and Hooch, starring Josh Peck. The man with the gigantic dome piece.
Who's going to be turned into an animatronic here soon?
Is Josh Peck in? Josh Hutcherson is in Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh man! Wow. Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
Josh doesn't know it's Josh's.
There's a lot of us, man. It's not my fault.
The Mysterious Benedict Society, Mighty Ducks Game Changers, The Willow, The Making of Willow, Diary of a Future President, Just Beyond, The World According to Jeff Goldblum, Marvel's Project Hero,
that's kind of sad.
The Right Stuff, The Real Right Stuff, Cheaper by the Dozen remake, The One and Only Ivan, Stargirl, Hollywood Stargirl, Flora and Ulysses, Artemis Fowl, once again, Artemis Fowl, The Princess, Encore, Black Beauty, Clouds, America the Beautiful, Better Nate Than Ever, shame, that's a good name too, Weird But True, ! Timmy Failure, Be Our Chef, Magic Camp, Earth to Ned, Foodtastic, Stuntman, Disney Fairy Tale Weddings, Wolfgang, It's a Dog's Life with Bill Farmer. Who is that? The Big Fib, Rogue Trip, More Than Robots, Shop Class, Pick the Litter, Own the Room, Among the Stars, Harmonious Live, Pentatonics, Around the World for the Holidays. Thank God, I can't stand Pentatonics. Why the Last Man from Hulu. That sucks. Pistol, Little Demon, Maggie, Dollface, The Hot Zone, The Premise, Love in the Time of Corona. Oh, Jesus Christ. Everything's Trash. That's a great follow-up to Love in the Time of Corona. Best in Snow, Best in Dough, Darby and the Dead, The Quest, Rosaline or Rosaline? I can't English. Life Below Zero, Next Generation, National Geographic Investigates, LSD and Psychedelics. Okay.
Oh.
9/11, One Day in America, The Armstrong Tapes, Buried States of World War II, Bin Laden's Hard Drive, Croc the Eight Jaws.
Wait,
Croc the Eight Jaws. I've almost read that incorrectly.
Why is that? Why are those things on Disney Plus? What is happening?
It's National Geographic.
Fair enough.
Trafficked with Marina Van Zeller, Drug Lords, The Next Generation. So like Degrassi. Extreme Rescues, Most Wanted Sharks. That actually sounds interesting. Locked Up Abroad.
Most Wanted Sharks? Wait, hold on.
Yes, Most Wanted Sharks. I'm surprised that's actually not on Discovery Plus. Locked Up Abroad. North Korea. Inside the Mind of a Dictator. To Catch a Smuggler Roam. What? Did I read that right? To Catch a Smuggler Roam. What? What?
Just
Ultimate Survival, World War II. And then stuff leaving Hulu May 31st. The Come Up, The Deep End. Everything's trash. Keep this between us. Keep this between us. That's a great way to...
Gosh, dude. It's...
So some of these I have definitely heard of, and it feels like some of these were like early Disney Plus things, like an Artemis Fowl or an Encore. I was kind of wondering how this actually saves Disney money, but somebody brought up the great point of residuals. Going, that makes sense. But at the same time, this is just a weird choice. Now, Disney actually got themselves into some flack because apparently they're nixing some of their documentaries, including one, I believe it's called Howard, about the guy that made the music for Little Mermaid. And everyone's just going, no, 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 no. You leave that one. And Disney's going, oh, people like that one? We'll leave that one. We haven't finalized a list yet, a.k.a. we'll see which one you guys get the most pissed about, and we'll leave that one on the service. What do you make of all these cancellations, Josh? And anything that besides Artemis Fowl that stands out to you the most?
I mean, I know my family really, really enjoyed the Mysterious Benedict Society, and I've seen a few episodes having not read the books, and it's good. It's a good mystery kids show. It gives me a series of unfortunate events vibes, and it's kind of cool. I so that for me will be very missed. They canceled the show, so it's no wonder that they are taking it off. But I'm trying off the top of my head, those are really the only ones that I know very well. It's kind of like I said, it's weird that like they own these properties technically, so the residuals is the only thing I can think of. But then again, as there's some stuff that the writer strike has proven, residuals aren't getting paid out all that much when it comes to streaming. So at least not to writers. So I'm wondering who's getting those residuals if it's not the writers and it's I mean, okay, that's fair, I guess. But like,
I'm sure Zach Braff and Gabrielle Union are getting some nice residual checks for that Cheaper by the Dozen movie that no one saw.
Yeah, it's I don't know how to feel about it, honestly. I go clean up your service a little bit. Like obviously, yes, we don't need every single project you've ever put on there. But that being said, like I don't know, man. If you're saying this because you're cutting costs, to me that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't understand why you can't just say, hey, we're cleaning up our, there's too much stuff on Disney Plus, so we're going to clean it up a little bit. I don't understand why you can't go with that and not just say, and you like have to say like, oh, we're cutting costs, so we're getting rid of all this stuff. Like, you know what I mean?
I think this is going to end up leading to a revival in physical media. I'm already seeing it trending on some social medias. As shows are getting canceled left, right, and center, I'm just going, hey, I still have all my favorite shows and movies on a thing called hard copy. But not always the case. You still got some of those lesser-known shows. I still have never forgiven NBC Universal for never coming out with a physical copy version of Matthew Perry's Go On that only lasted one season. But still, at least give me like a DVD copy of that. A lot of these shows and movies, I'm worried in this era of streaming, regardless of the quality, we're in this new weird age of technology that these things could potentially be lost forever, which is weird because we're also in a time with technology that movies thought to be lost forever are coming back. You get things like Vinegar Syndrome or Arrow Video, who are like remastering old movies like 70s and 80s slashers or B movies and putting them out in like Blu-rays and 4Ks. And it's really, really exciting that these things can be remastered and restored and preserved, while at the same time, other movies are being suppressed and not given the same amount of care. I don't care if a movie is good or not. I don't want any movie to be gone forever, regardless of quality, because I think movies should be preserved. Somebody likes everything. That doesn't make sense. There's always at least one person that likes something.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, you can find something to like about it. The Room is terrible, but God, do I love it so much.
Yeah.
I think movies should be preserved. I think it's cool that we get older stuff that's being preserved. Like I complained earlier about The Public Enemy not dating too well. There's clearly stuff in there that's like early model gangster stuff, and me more being the history buff that I am, I like seeing the evolution of things and the growth of things. So I want preservation, and it makes me sad to see these things being canceled because I don't see enough studios caring, going, well, we've run out of storage space on our hard drive, so just boot it forever without proper backups in order to like keep these for later. And I think we're getting in this weird spot of, in 10, 15 years, is there going to be a generation of kids going, hey, do you remember that one movie? Or is it because they're being barraged with so much content from everywhere, more and more things are going to fall through the cracks very quickly?
I mean, that's to be fair, that happened with our generation quite a bit as well.
But they still had physical releases of stuff that you can find.
I mean, yes, kind of, but like that Buzz Lightyear, the Buzz Lightyear of Star Command does not have a DVD release.
Yeah. They only ever had the VHS.
Yeah, the Tarzan show does not have a DVD release, even though it was fantastic. There's a lot, I think, from our generation where companies were just trying to do something different, and it never got physical releases. So like I hear what you're saying though, because if we look at all movies and all TV as a form of art, then art should be preserved. And so yeah, I agree. Literally, as soon as I have the space or the money, you better believe I'm gonna get back on collecting physical media.
Speaking of art, Mission Impossible dropped their new trailer, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And y'all, let me just say this now. This is the trailer that they should have come out of the gates with, not whatever garbage that first trailer was. I mean,
it helps to have the sound on, right?
Seriously, that first trailer. What is it with Tom Cruise movies and their trailers having audio issues? The Mummy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's just great. Yeah, that first trailer had cool visuals, but there was some not connecting there. I saw some great fan edits of like people putting sound effects, and it just worked 1,000 times better. This trailer just gets me amped. If I remember correctly, I put this as my number one most anticipated movie of the year. But then again, like my top 3 or 4 could all kind of shuffle around depending on a variety of factors or the day. I think this trailer is significantly better. While not outright stating so, it kind of feels like they're kind of giving some story hints a little bit. I feel like the vibe that I got from this is there's like this new AI program, almost like a Minority Report, also starring Tom Cruise, that it seems like a Minority Report. Maybe I'm just misreading this. A Minority Report of this AI program can tell crimes or your life choices before you even make them. So things are predestined for you. And Mr. Tom Cruise, old school himself, probably doesn't believe in predestination. That's a whole other religious debate for another day. Ask your friends, they might know. I think this trailer is a lot better, and I'll be honest, as excited as I am for this franchise, the thing I'm most excited for is the villain in this. Let me Google the guy's name real quick. Mission Impossible no, not Part 2. Part 1, Dead Reckoning.
He's Part 2 already, yeah? Wow.
What is the guy's name? The new villain. Mission Impossible 7 cast. Yeah. Isai Morales? I can't remember. Is that how you pronounce?
Yeah, that works, sure.
He looks perfect. He looks like he's going to be a good fill-in for the as opposed to the villain that we've had for 5 and 6. It looks like we're going to complete a new villain. I'm on board with this guy because while I don't always love Titans, I very much hate watch Titans because it's the only form of live action Dick Grayson we've gotten for many years. This guy was Deathstroke in season 2 of Titans, and while the show is not written well, besides Manu Bennett on Arrow, he's probably one of the best Deathstrokes I've ever seen. He is a phenomenal actor. He was great in Titans and really elevated the lackluster material he was given. So I'm really excited to see what he does this time around. Like, seeing his Deathstroke, he's got a menace. I think the trailer, at least for me, maybe it's just because I'm so used to seeing specific cast members like Tom Cruise, like Rebecca Ferguson, like Simon Pegg's Benji. I'm more gravitated towards the characters that we haven't seen before, and I immediately start asking a whole bunch of questions, like Issa Morales' character or Pomp Clementieff, as apparently a hitman.
Dude, I did not know Palm was going to be in this movie, and now I'm super stoked. Like, I love her. She's great. Like, way to give her some more stuff to do. Absolutely. Oh, dude. Yeah, I am not the person to talk to when it comes to people being excited for Mission Impossible, at least before this trailer. This trailer looks like Daniel Craig's Bond movies and Keanu Reeves John Wick movies had a baby. It looks so beautiful. Everybody is killing it in this trailer. It's very, very obvious that Tom Cruise is going to have some killer lines in this movie for once, which is like, okay, all right, Tom, I see you reaching into your bag of tricks even in your old age. It's interesting. And again, I have seen all the Mission Impossibles up to this point, but I don't necessarily remember, and maybe this is just concussion brain kicking in. I don't remember Tom Cruise's character being as like so attached to his team that he'd be like, no, the mission is not as important. Your life is not as important as the mission. Do you know what I mean? That seems to be different this time around.
So he has always cared about his team. He always very much tries to keep his team alive. And here's why I think that is and why I think it's expertly done. If you remember correctly, what happens in the first Mission Impossible, the very first mission that we see, everyone not named John Voight or Tom Cruise in that team dies. So I think from that first one, Ethan Hunt doesn't want any of his teammates to ever die again, so he focuses on their safety above everything else. So I think this trailer and also this movie and Part 8, since these are the last 2 Mission Impossible movies that they're doing, at least with Ethan Hunt as a character before he becomes the director of the IMF, mark my words, that's exactly what's going to happen here. I think they're going to try and complete the loop all of Final Destination stuff style of you end where you begin, of you bring back the theme of keep everyone in your team alive, make sure that they're safe because they are your family, keep everyone safe, and make sure what happened to you in the very, very first movie doesn't happen ever again. Ethan has always been a very interesting character of like not wanting to kill and always trying to find the other routes to take, like keep everyone safe, do the mission this specific way so that way there's no casualties. Also, I like that there's very, very subtle callbacks to the first one. Like I already mentioned, of the whole theme of trying to keep your team safe. You get Kittredge, who was one of the agents, the director of the IMF, I believe, in the first one. He comes all the way back for this, which we haven't seen Kittredge since that first one. I'm going, whoa, that's a nice callback there. But it's a blink and you'll miss it moment in the trailer, but I'm going, that was 100% intentional. There's like this shot over Tom Cruise's shoulder where he's in a sleeveless shirt and it's like a Dutch angle. I'm going, hey, that looks exactly like a shot from Mission Impossible 1, which had a whole bunch of Dutch angle shots because it's Brian De Palma. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try and go with some visual similarities of just like, I'm totally copying his style here. Also, that was short-haired Tom Cruise in that first Mission Impossible as well. It's always interesting to see Mission Impossible where Tom Cruise's hair is at that point in the movie. First one, short. Yeah. Second one, ridiculously long. Third, crew cut. Fourth, really long again. It's all over the place. It's like Ron's hair in Harry Potter.
Oh, that stuff was rough. And hearing like Daniel Radcliffe and Rupert talk about that, like whole like they told us to grow it out, and then when we got there, they were like, not long enough. We're like, what in the world? Yeah, I. This feels like kind of maybe it's my perception of the Mission Impossible movies, because I think for me, they've always I haven't paid that much attention to them, so they've always been like that, just surface level spy thriller, not really doing much as far as like cinema intelligence, I guess is what I'm going to call it. Which now kind of thinking about it is not necessarily true or fair of me to say that of them. But it definitely seems like they're going farther than they have been before to have a very specific kind of visual language that they want to put forward, which is pretty exciting, honestly.
Lastly, for our news this week, the glorious return of one of our all-time favorite movie characters. Yes, we will die on this hill. And that is that Mr. Han, aka Jackie Chan, is coming back for the new Karate Kid movie. Now, I'm still kind of conflicted about this, just because Josh's all-time favorite show is Cobra Kai, clearly, as he's logged in, 0 hours watching it, despite my... Well, Josh, you've got plenty of time on your hands away from the podcast now to watch Cobra Kai. But the thing is, this new Karate Kid, they've blatantly said is separate from Cobra Kai, and Cobra Kai has never come out and stated it, but they've always kind of implied that the Jaden Smith, Jackie Chan Karate Kid movie takes place in a separate universe, which always kind of makes me a little sad, because God, I want Jackie Chan to show up in Cobra Kai so bad. Also, can we figure out the writer's strike, please? Because it's currently holding up the final season of Cobra Kai, amongst many other things. And I want one more season, please. Also, I want one more season of Superman and Lois before it all dies, because that's also in limbo right now. And I swear to God, if you renew Gotham Knights and cancel Superman and Lois, there shall be hell to pay. No, seriously. Those are apparently the two options. They might keep one and ditch the other. I'm going, make the right choice here.
Gosh, man, it in the way that like production studios and like movie studios work, like I would not be surprised at all if that's what the direction they went with. Guys, there's more diversity here. There's more interesting stories. No. Stop it.
No. Gotham Knights is cheaper, so they'll just continue with that, and the characters are cheaper to license out. But I'm excited about this just because maybe it's just me. I feel like I don't see Jackie Chan in as much nowadays, whether it's just he's slowed down or maybe he just does more foreign films. He's gone back to his roots, because I feel like he still is busy with movies. I just don't see him with Americanized movies.
Did you see the trailer? I saw the trailer for one that he did in Hong Kong. That's him teaching the next member of his stunt team, and it's a horse. But like they treat it like it's like a Karate Kid, but it's a horse that he's trying to teach how to fight. It's so funny.
I will only watch that movie if it's called Horsing Around. But getting back to Karate Kid.
Yeah. Back to the best Karate Kid movie ever made.
And here's where I firmly side with Josh. Y'all can suck it. Like, y'all, the original's good, but the remake just works better, I think. We all can say what we want about Jaden Smith, but the character has a much bigger uphill battle than Daniel LaRusso. Also, as iconic as Mr. Miyagi is, Mr. Han is just a much better and more well-rounded character, I think, than Mr. Miyagi. Like, Mr. Miyagi, he's got a little bit of tragedy in his life of, yes, I went off to war and the woman I love died, as opposed to, hey, I literally killed the woman I love, and every year I build a car just to destroy it in my own depression, and I'm going, you're right there, Jackie? Good Lord.
Yeesh.
I don't think Jaden's coming back. But the thing is, Will Smith will come back, because Will Smith and Jada Smith absolutely still have the rights to Karate Kid. That's how they're able to make this remake to begin with back in 2010, 2011, because a while back they got the rights. That's why Cobra Kai, everything has to go through them, and they're why they're listed as executive producers, even though they don't really have a whole lot to do with the show. I don't see Jaden coming back just because after Earth, he wasn't in a whole lot of movies. We all bullied him out of movies anymore. That being said, we could have a next Karate Kid situation here where Mr. Han just teaches someone else. Maybe. I feel like I saw something about like it was the other way around. Like a kid was teaching an adult, to which I'm just going, how does that make sense for the Karate Kid? The karate socially awkward adult man. Like, it just doesn't roll off the tongue as much. Unless Jaden Smith comes back to train Jack Black. It's all a Kung Fu Panda crossover. Both Jackie Chan and Grasshopper coming back. Mantis, I mean. No, Mantis is Seth Rogen. Yeah. He's the monkey.
Yeah, he's Monkey.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan is Monkey. I think everything about the remake I think works better for me. Daniel, look, I'm going to say this because he's a terrible character. He's not a great main character. Also whining about moving from Fresno to San Francisco, which is like not really actually that
Jersey
far.
To
Jersey.
He moved across.
He didn't say Fresno.
He's from Jersey.
Gross. Hate that.
Yeah, he moved from Jersey to it's not Hill Valley. Yeah, it is Hill Valley. Because that's where the tournament is. I want to say San Dimas, but that's Bill and Ted. Gosh,
it's still not that far.
Reseda. He moves to Reseda, which is like slums.
Yes.
But no, he moved from Jersey to Reseda as opposed to Detroit to China.
Like, that is so much of a bigger like cultural shift than like, I get it. We do joke that Jersey's like another place on the planet. Like, it is unlike anywhere else for all the worst reasons. But
says the Florida man.
yeah. Your state's going through it right now, my dude, man. But it works better for me. You're taking this kid from Detroit, nonetheless, that is like, then putting him in a completely different cultural system, completely different country. And then Han's story is so incredibly heartbreaking. It just, oh man, Jackie doesn't show as often anymore, like how good of a dramatic actor he is, but golly, he's good. So good. I would be interested. How old is Mr. Han in the first one? He's like 60s? Upper 50s, isn't he? Yeah, something like 60s.
I'm terrible about guessing ages.
Yeah. So the big question I think is this is this connected to the first, to that reboot? Is it how many years after or before is it in comparison to that? To me, because of the story of the first one, you can only do after if you're using Mr. Han, because all the character development that he goes through in the movie, like, it would be weird if something happened before that to help him get like some character development, and then he just like forgot it for the reboot. But yeah.
What if there's something that brings him to America? So Mr. Han's the fish out of water, and he's still the trained, like, martial artist and whatnot, but there's a new kid that has to help Mr. Han get acclimated to American life, and that kid's getting bullied. And so in return of just like, I need a friend, I'll train you to deal with these bullies if you help me be an old man, basically. Like,
I'd like that a lot, actually. It gives, like, having a kid helping an older, like, immigrant at that get acclimated, to me works really, really well, just because that automatically gives your main character like good morality points, as opposed to just Daniel's son in the first one.
Everything that happens to Daniel is totally deserved.
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely.
As per usual, this week's episode is sponsored by TeePublic, your one-stop shop for all things Uncharted Media merch, whether it is t-shirts with tinfoil hat, their logo on it, the Uncharted Media logo, or other fantastic designs. Go support the show in that way. Let the podcast live on in your merch sales, however small they may be. Now, may sound vain, but let's just talk about us for a while. Talk about the podcast, as who knows what the future holds for us, but might be the end. We'll see. Come on. There we go.
I believe in you.
No, don't believe in me. It's been, like I said, 4 years, 8 months, something like that.
Which is crazy to think that we've been doing this that long.
We had no plan whatsoever when we were starting this. So, even before the podcast, there's a lot of backstory I feel like we need to kind of go into this. Again, this whole discussion, it's going to sound like a whole bunch of patting ourselves on the back, to which, after 224 episodes, I feel like we've kind of earned it a little bit. And also, let us give ourselves roses here. Let us talk about ourselves now. That's why you pretend to listen. If it sounds like from the get-go that Josh and I had good chemistry on this show, it's because we had good chemistry before the show, and we probably logged at least 100 hours of stuff before even doing a podcast. So
yeah,
we did a whole bunch of video stuff in college, but even then, before that, we should kind of give the whole story here, give closure here. I feel like we talked about this in the podcast before, but we'll reiterate it here. We initially met in college, but we never once were roommates. Although, looking at our roommates, we probably could have made it work a little better than some of the other roommates that we've had.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I had some questionable ones over time. I had some good ones too, but some questionable ones. We'll say that too. But yeah, Josh and I never actually roomed together. And for a good chunk of our college careers, never really hung out either. We first met through a mutual friend who, where is Luke at now? Do you know?
Yeah, I do. I stay in contact with him.
Where is he?
He's down in Arizona these days.
Really? Wow, he's way far.
Yeah.
He's way far moved.
Yeah. But like if you know Luke real well, like, yeah, he hates the cold, so that like works perfectly for him.
Good old Kentucky boy hates the cold. But Josh and I met through a mutual friend. I'll say in our later years, we've more kind of solidified our own personality types, as I think everyone just kind of already does that as they get older. Josh has always been the more outgoing, boisterous one. We're both still introverts at heart, but I feel like if you put us in a room, Josh is going to be the one that talks first, and I'll be the one that talks last, and we'll continue to talk. And if there's one of us that'll just talk at the worst times, it's gonna be me, but Josh will be the one that talks first. So I feel like he was the one, I don't want to say that initiated everything, but was like the energetic go-getter, which is saying something because our middle friend, our liaison friend, was literally a mascot for a little bit there, so you'd think he'd be the outgoing one.
Yeah.
But we watched Fight Club, which, is the stereotypical college dude movie that like none of us had seen before, so we all watched it. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, he had his TV in the most awkward spot in the world. He had one of those old tube TVs, like it was like 2 feet deep, and it was like on top of a dresser, and so we're all just like leaning back, just it's like we're in the front row of a movie theater.
To his credit, there really wasn't any other spot for it in that room, man. Dorm rooms are small. You just like do the best you can with them.
Yeah. So after that, Josh and I didn't talk for a while after Fight Club. We just like we were always friendly to each other. Like we'd see each other in the cafeteria and we'd be like, "Oh hey, what's up?" But that was about the extent of it for a while, and then sophomore year. You weren't an RA sophomore. You couldn't have been. You were on the other side.
No, yeah, because I roomed with Neslo that year.
Yes, and he was also on our floor. So I'm still mad about this to this day. All the people that I hung out with were on the same floor in college that year, but it was almost like two different buildings because there's two hallways and a gigantic bathroom that divided everything. So if you wanted to get to the other side, you had to like cut through the bathroom. So it almost like was this weird divider. All my friends, except for my roommate at the time, were on the other side, and I was over here. I'm just like, can I just like go to the other room and whatnot? Also, I remember there's this weird like divot in that hallway where we put like a chair, and I was going, why is there a divot here? But now I'm getting sidetracked. That year there was one dorm, and it was neither of our dorms, but there was one dorm that was like the party dorm. And by that it means it always stunk of Little Caesars or Papa John's and some stale food, but it was always where movie nights, 100% legal and totally 100% watched through appropriate means episodes of Game of Thrones night. In no way, shape, or form did we watch those from Pirate Bay or any other torrent site. We 100% watched them from HBO as an HBO provider.
The days of Pirate Bay. Like I know, I have no doubt people probably still use Pirate Bay these days, but like back as a college student, it was like, so we're all gonna torrent this, right? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yep. But that, and I also remember trying to get him to torrent season 3 of Sherlock for me. That way I could watch it like before he came to the States, but we couldn't find it anywhere. My priorities, man. My priorities. But our friend Cody Manning, the one that introduced me to the drug that is horror movies, that kind of started everything. Like we watched Halloween, and we basically watched a horror movie every night in October, and that was a tradition that we kept for a while. And that's kind of where we pick back up when Josh with the story of just Josh and I. So what do you remember about those nights, Josh?
I remember,
except for the one movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember like not just the movies, but like that was also the year like I got big into gaming as a group again. Like I've played video games my entire life, but like it's been a while since I had gotten into a group with it, and like we'd have like certain nights that we would all get together and take turns with playing with different kinds of teams for what was it?
Super Smash.
I think it's because we did Super Smash, but I'm trying to remember which Black Ops it was that had the zombies I think it was just the first Black Ops that we played the zombie maps on over and over and over and over again. But yeah, I remember vivid memory of, at the very least, the first time we watched 1 Hour Photo, the first time we watched Sinister. Like, dude, Sinister was hilarious because yes, that was the time that my roommate tried to scare me mid-movie, and I punched the crap out of him because of it. But that was also because we crammed like, dude, I want to say like 12 people into that small little dorm room to watch Sinister together, which is like such an experience I don't think I'll ever have again because I like my space now. But yeah, and then like going to that was when you and I started going to family video like every now and then, because I started having nothing to do on the weekends, and we watching movies and stuff like that. We're like, hey, I was going to go pick this up, you want to come? I was like, yeah, sure. I'm not doing anything right now, I'm ignoring my homework. That was all because that was also the year I bought a Super Nintendo, and it's like tried to pretend like I was like super into retro video games. And yeah, like because Game Grumps got really big, and then JonTron was really big at the time as well. That was like the year that like you and I definitely picked everything back up and started getting really into movies. I'm trying to remember if we ever did more than just the horror movies, because I don't think we really did.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like we just have like random movie nights watching stuff, but I think horror was the main thing that we would do. And then I feel like if we were still there, we would stick with that a lot nowadays. I've definitely have thought about in the past of like, if we were to go to college now, like if we went to college like starting 2021 and whatnot, how different would it be? Because when we went, it was like 2012 to 2016, so make of that what you will, age-wise. Streaming really wasn't a thing. I remember Daredevil premiering on Netflix, and that was a big deal.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember having watch parties with Daredevil.
Daredevil and Hulu were about the only streamer in town. That's where Family Video comes into play. And I'm glad we can talk about this one more time, because when Family Video closed, we covered that on the podcast. We spent a whole discussion, a whole news topic about it. But Josh was on hiatus at the time, and Michael was filling in. And Michael, I guess, just didn't go with this as much. So he didn't have as fond of memories, which I'm just going, you heathen. So having you here, I feel like, I don't care that's beating this dead horse. We can, again, say farewell to Family Video again, because you have not as much experience as me, because very few people on this planet have as much experience with Family Video as I do. But you went with us quite often, much more than Michael did. So before I get into it, what do you remember about those Family Video nights that are so important for us?
Well, I mean, yeah, because this is going to sound like two old guys talking about past, things that were great in the past. I had to walk up, the hill to get to school, blah, blah, blah. Like, there was always, and still to this day, is something awesome about walking into a movie store and being like, okay, what are we gonna watch tonight? I don't really know what I'm feeling. I'm gonna roam the aisles a little bit. Ooh, we haven't watched a horror movie in a while. Let's go watch that. Or like, let's go check out the new releases. Like, that could be fun. It was, and maybe it was part of it is scratching that itch in the back of my brain that was that is the same part that I love going to bookstores and being like, and just discovering. It felt like discovering of movies, as opposed to like, oh, well, this is showing on Netflix, let's watch that, I guess. It felt more like a personal discovery. And I think you and I want to say Chaz and Cody used to come with us all the time too.
Oh yeah.
We would and just go. Like, I think as a collective, we'd go, oh, everyone would get at least one movie. And then we'd go, okay, we can only afford this many. What has to go back on the shelves? And then we'd all like discuss on like why we want this, blah, blah, blah. And especially for someone like me, who I did not really grow up in a movie household. Like I've said on the podcast, one of the first, movies I've ever saw in theaters was Cars, and like was very like a VeggieTale household, and like those were the DVDs we had, and a few DVDs of Disney movies, but not really. And so like going to college and like discovering movies, like definitely like that semester especially was like such a big formational thing for me, because it, like, I had no idea all this stuff was out there, and had no idea about like, these moving books kind of basically. So yeah, it's Family Video is one of those, it's one of the last bastions of physical media that to be quite honest, I think depending on how streaming goes, might come back. We'll see.
That's also the thing. If I talked about it with what would college look like if we went nowadays, we wouldn't have Family Video. Like, how would we do those movie nights? Would we have those movie nights? Because I talked about it before, but I'll talk about it now because it just brings me so much joy to think about. So without delving into specifics, I went to college with a very specific major in mind. There's a lot of people with that specific major on my floor freshman year. I hated every last one of those people, and it spurred me against that major. So I had no real friends for this first semester of college, and I absolutely hated it. As a kid, you're always just like, I look forward to the weekends when I don't have school and whatnot. I dreaded the weekends, and I look forward to the weeks because I had homework, I had classes, I had stuff to do. Weekends, nothing. No car because you're a freshman. No friends to do anything. I remember because you're a freshman. Yeah. Well, looking at the people on my floor too. I didn't help my own cause either, looking back on it, but just I had horrible people on my floor that were not emblematic of what they were supposed to be. I walked to the mall one weekend because I was so lonely. I walked
that mall was literally just a building that happened to be, you could happen to walk through.
No, here's the thing. I walked to the mall from the bank.
Jeez, dude.
Like, there's a straight shot to Yeah, because I wanted to kill time and just be away from everyone for the longest time. And then I discovered Family Video, and that's
which is
essentially it's my villain
a far
origin
less.
story.
It's just way shorter of a walk.
Yes. Family Video is my great villain origin story. I'll always say that. Because I remember going, and it was just like a Blockbuster, except a lot cheaper. And make sure when you go to the bathroom, you pick the bathroom door as opposed to the other door.
Yep.
Just leave it there. But just getting movies every single weekend and getting, no joke, like 6 to 8 movies for one weekend, just so I could kill the time and get back to the week, just to unplug from everything. And I remember watching a bunch of movies, and it was Star Trek The Wrath of Khan. Great movie. Not one of my all-time favorites, but still a great movie. I remember halfway through that texting my mom going, I know what I want to do with my life, and it's got to be something to do with movies. And I've more or less kind of stuck with that ever since. Even in my job, I'm not doing movie-related stuff, but I'm doing video editing-related stuff. So that's it's close enough for me, and I have this. And so Family Video set me on that path, and so I would preach the gospel of Family Video to everyone else, whether it was Cody Manning, which were to the horror nights. Not horror nights, that's something else. Horror, nights. We'll talk about horror nights later. But here's the thing. When you're a broke college kid, spending $5 and getting like 6 to 7 movies, and spending $5 more and getting Little Caesars next door, that's your weekend right there. So long as you don't leave the pizza on the floor, because Alex and I made that mistake many a times, that if you leave the pizza anywhere on your dorm, on the couch, on your chair, it's fine. If you leave it on the floor, within the hour, you will not be able to eat that pizza again because it'll be covered with ants. Just don't do it. The fact that we made that mistake more than 4 times is probably a problem. It's not our worst.
More than twice is a problem.
Shut up. It's not our worst food related story. It's not the Popeyes thing.
Yeesh.
But let's just say sometime by my sophomore year of college, so not even all 4 years, by my sophomore year of college, I saw my balance of like how much I had spent at Family Video, and it was definitely in the 3 figures by my sophomore year. Guys,
attaboy.
Movies at Family Video are like $1 or 2 movies for $1. Do the math. It's also great because you could rent video games and you wouldn't even have to put the deposit down anymore just because they knew us so well. I know one of my RAs was there for a little bit. Family Video was just the best. But then it was junior year because I was in the apartment at the time. I decided to start making videos, and the first video I ever did was reacting to the news that Disney was going to be making Toy Story 4. Do not look up that video. Oh my God. I look like Jesse Pinkman. Like, I was a rail back then. And also,
yes, you were.
I had meth head facial hair. Like, it was a choice.
Yes, you did.
Which I'm still debating if I might bring back the Robin Hood for Halloween this year. Maybe. Because, I have an emotional attachment to Robin Hood, which we'll talk about later. But I did that for a while. And it was a solo act for a little bit until it wasn't. For the most part, I still was the one doing most of the content, but every once in a while, I would do crossovers. And by that, I mean try and milk other people to try and get their friends to watch my stuff instead. To varying degrees of success. I know Michael was on it for a couple videos, which worked out fine. I wish I could go back and redo some of those videos with the video knowledge that I have now of looking at some of my stuff and just going, Iris up! There's a way to fix this! Or get a cheap microphone, which... whatever. But it wasn't until... Josh, do you remember the first video that you were ever on?
I want to say it was like a 5 Good Things, but it might have been something before that.
It was a 5 Good Things.
Yeah, it was. Oh, jeez. I want to say Wicker Man, but that doesn't feel because we didn't do.
That was Nicolas Cage month.
Dude, that was so. I will always love Nicolas Cage month. That was so great. No, I don't remember the first one. Was it The Happening?
It was The Happening. Look at you.
The concussion didn't take everything from my brain. But
It
like,
sounds like a divorce, man. The concussion took it all,
it
man.
does, doesn't it? But yeah, because yeah. Because like you and I were like, what? I forget how the conversation came up, but like at some point we are like, there's gotta be some good there. We like some really crappy movies, movies that people like tend to think are really bad, but we're like, we enjoy them. There's gotta be like some redeemable factors in some of these. And so we picked like one of the most notorious, still to this day, worst horror movies ever made, and did our best to find the good. And to be fair, we tried our hardest.
And to be fair, we may have found some stuff that everyone overlooks of like, hey, maybe the reason everyone acts badly and everyone is a terrible actor in this movie, it's an intentional choice because they're already infected by the plan. So we're just going, we're big brained or totally reading too much into this. So we did a couple videos.
Like it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. So like, yeah.
So we did a couple videos like that. We did, like Josh said, Nicolas Cage month, which case we did The Wicker Man, Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance. I feel like we tried to do Left Behind, but that movie is so awful that you can't find positive things about it. You have an establishing shot out of focus. How do you have an establishing shot out of focus?
Yeah, and like when Nicolas Cage is literally giving his all in a movie that nobody else cares about.
In a movie with the short guy from Pirates of the Caribbean and Jordan Sparks. Yes, Nicolas Cage is giving his all in that movie.
What that was so weird.
But video-wise, I feel like both video-wise and podcast-wise, I can always pinpoint a specific moment that I feel like we really hit our groove. And when it came to videos, Josh, this is going to be a blast from the past for you. What was it? What if WWE superstars were DC characters?
Gosh dang it. I remember us just sitting down filming that and having way too much fun with it. Just because I think the magic of it was just like you and I having a conversation we've had a billion times already, like just happened to be in front of a camera. But like the parallels ended up like smacking. I don't remember
Paige
like a lot of the choices.
Paige is Raven. Paige is Raven. Undertaker,
which is like easy.
Trigon. Xavier Woods is Static Shock. Sami Zayn is Nightwing.
I'd still love Xavier Woods.
Why do I feel like Paul Heyman was Penguin or something like that?
Yeah, it was some wild stuff. But it was that was so much fun. Oh my gosh. Like it was more fun than doing the 5 Good Things videos because like we didn't have to watch a terrible movie.
You know the funny thing is, so before all that, my freshman class, I had an actual video production class. It was the first one I actually took that really got me involved in video production and editing and whatnot. And I did a music video for that. Of all the video projects I've ever done, Josh isn't in that one.
Yep.
Wait, I feel like you had to take that class and you did the music video. And I forget.
I did. I because it was like my senior year. I wanted to do something that like I had an elective class that I could pick, and I was like, you know what? I'm into this right now. Why not? And I got like the highest grade in the class because I just knew what I was doing. Alex was in it, which was for better or for worse. But yeah, and you were in it too. Yeah. Because the video was about
Oh, I was in the video. I was like, I'm not. I wasn't in your class.
No. But you were in the video, because the video was about Alex waking up and you not being in the room and him missing his friend.
Right, and Heather's in that video too.
Video, yeah. There's like that weird.
I haven't thought about that.
There's like that weird like slow mo shot, and like so. At the end of that video, I did that slow-mo shot of him walking into the room and seeing you and like jumping on you to give you this big hug. And like, I actually got a personal note from the teacher. She was like, this is like, for someone who's just starting out, this is one of the best uses of slow-mo I've ever seen, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I know. I watch a lot of movies.
They're not good movies, but I watch a lot of them, which again, people, I don't think you can fully comprehend this. It's okay to watch bad movies. Just if you like movies, watch everything you can get your hands on because you will learn. I have learned more about movies and movie making and everything else on my own time than I have anything in college, just of watching a whole bunch of movies, watching a whole bunch of like making of stuff, and just watching videos from like scriptwriters and storytellers and just how things mesh. We did the WWE video. I'm trying to remember what the last video we did before we graduated and then just went our separate ways, because it might have just been like a 5 Good Things or something like that. But then we just kind of went quiet for a little bit there. I did videos on my own for a while. I feel like I took a brief break and then came back with a John Wick review, I believe, because I was so clever being like, everyone keeps asking if I'm back. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. Looking back, I'm going,
Nerd.
wow, you're so original there. Then let's see. Had a bad job, got married, and then worked at Universal for a little bit. That was great, but it wasn't full time, and so I take this full-time warehouse job. Still to this day is the single worst job I have ever had. It was so soul-sucking, and it just took out any like creative juices that I had. And also, like, I am in an incredibly healthy work environment now. It's the best job I've ever had where I'm at currently. I love my bosses, I love my coworkers, and I'm finally starting to like untrain myself to some of the negative like work tendencies that were instilled at the other place. Are just like, oh, that's 100% not healthy. Like, my current workplace is just like, hey, you have time off scheduled? No, you should. Why? Because you have it. If you don't use it, you'll be throwing it away. I'm like, wait, you want me to take the time off? Yes, it's good for you. I'm like, oh, thanks. But this warehouse job was awful. It's where, honestly, it's where I got some of my best ideas of all time, though, from it. It's where I got my idea for a short film. Oh, God, that's idea still in there. And I have never done anything with it. I'm determined to filming it someday. I swear. But at that time, because they were so anal about everything, they're like, you could listen to stuff, but don't be like on your phone all the time. So I really got into podcasts because I could just put it on and then just leave it for like anywhere between 1 to 3 hours, depending on the podcast, as opposed to if I'm listening to music. I'm one of those like ADD song skippers of just like, not feeling it after about 3 seconds. Skip. So podcasts, I really got into like a bunch of different podcasts, like No Sleep Podcast, which is a scripted horror one. That one's great. Geek History Lesson. But the one that we take the biggest inspiration from, which ironically enough I don't listen to as much nowadays, is Mr. Sunday Movies podcast, in which case they essentially, tell me if this sounds familiar whatsoever, they have a segment called What We Readin'. They also go over the past week's movie news, and then they have some discussion based off of something currently happening, or they talk about a movie that just recently came out. Guys, in case you haven't noticed, we lift stuff from other people. But everyone else does it. Quentin Tarantino's made a career out of it. And so I got really into podcasts, and I was like, how hard can it be? I have some experience with this. But whenever I was listening to podcasts, I never once heard someone do it by themselves, except for one podcast that I still listen to called The Soundtrack Show, which is a deep dive into the analysis of movie scores, and it's fantastic. It's by an actual film composer. That's the only guy I've ever heard. So I was like, I need a co-host for this. And there was only ever one option for it, just because I remembered our videos. I'm going, well, let's see if Josh would be interested in this. I forget what was going on in your life at the time, but you also were looking for some creative outlet. And I would say from when I pitched the idea to you to when our first episode came out, it was like 3 days, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. So at the time, like, I had a lot going on. For those that don't know, I had gone to school. Yeah, I had gone to school to be a pastor. That did not work out. I realized it was not something I wanted to do. Obviously, for anybody that knows me now, it's kind of hilarious that was something I did. Was forced to move back to Texas, and then did some odd jobs and stuff like that. Leading up to the point where you texted me, you and I had been talking still on and off just about random movie stuff. I had started, like my fiance and I had just broken up. I was living on a air mattress at one of my buddy's places that was like 400 square feet. I was wrestling at the time too, so I was almost always heavily concussed.
And
And
it
then it
showed
was
in
like,
those early episodes.
yes, it did. Yeah, because like, yeah, from the point you were like, hey, why don't we do this? I was like, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts because I'm busy all the time, but like, I love talking about movies and stuff like that with you. So let's just record it, I guess.
And I think
Ooh,
at the
excuse me.
time, like after college, I kept in touch with some people. Like I vaguely talked to some of my roommates, but as time progresses away from college, you talk to them less and less. And Josh and I talked at that point in time, maybe like once a month. Like it wasn't a ton. And so I think Josh and I needed each other, but needed something, like some form of structure and routine to latch onto. And so that's kind of what the show became. And we worked out some of the kinks. Those early episodes were rough. From Josh recording in his car in the parking lot of a Planet Fitness.
Yeah,
To
dude, I could. Yeah, I'd be stealing somebody's Wi-Fi with like one of those headphone mics. After like a 12-hour shift and then like 2 hours of wrestling practice, be sitting there like trying to not fall asleep, make sure I could pay attention, and like kind of concussed because wrestling is like that. And just like trying to like make sure that we were doing something well, but like the sound quality was terrible.
and I
At least
was
on my end.
Oh, I'm sure mine wasn't great either. I was running Audacity, which had this tendency to like. I was also running on my old laptop, Heather's laptop, I think. Audacity has this terrible tendency of if the computer's slow, it'll like skip ahead in your recording, so like it'll miss your audio. And so like it would like get out of all sync and whatnot. So eventually, we wanted to like move the transition to video, and so I was like, I need to upgrade and get an actual like desktop computer because at the time I had what I call the cancerous laptop. So I had a really nice laptop that during college, I think it was in my final year or I can't remember. I slept on the top bunk, so I was coming down from the top bunk one day and I misstep and I just hear and I open my laptop and it's just black. Like the bottom part of the screen is just black. So I'm going, I have a giant tumor on my screen. Well, I can't use this computer anymore. I could still use it, I just couldn't use the screen. So for a while there, I like hooked it up with an HDMI cord to an actual monitor and just work from there. But I wanted to get an actual station because I wanted us to move to video stuff leading up to our 100th episode. And then, a week after I ordered this tower that I still have to this day, I got in a huge car accident and I thought I might have to scrap that order in order to pay for a new car. That was a fun time. Cause
That was fun.
I
That was
definitely
fun.
didn't have rain driving trauma at all for a couple of years after that, and still I don't particularly love driving in any form of wet conditions afterwards. But it's funny, we only ever did one live episode. We're like, we could do this. No, live sucks. We like pre-recording.
There's a lot that goes into it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's essentially what it was. It was we both had crappy jobs at the time. And then Josh kind of fluctuated on and off, whether it was wrestling or just life in general. Always kind of tried to make sure that the podcast was always secondary. Like, this is not a for-profit podcast. This is it's almost like a video diary, so to speak, of just like, we have thoughts.
Kind of, yeah.
We have thoughts about movies, and our close circle, like people in general proximity to us, only mildly care. So let's just spit it out into the ether, and the people that actually care can come later on, as opposed to us spewing it out onto our loved ones more so than we already do. Heather knows more about movies than just about anybody else that I know, primarily just via proximity to me and just me having to dump stuff onto her. But we always wanted to evolve and grow and whatnot. So that kind of leads me to, this is the 224th episode of this. We've had great and we've had bad moments, but let's focus on like Josh, do you have favorite moments or favorite episodes from the 200 plus episodes? I know we've got bad moments. One episode in particular that we
Yes.
won't talk about. I just think it's funny. As soon as we stopped recording that one episode, Josh and I were just like, we're never doing that again. We like go out of our way to never mention that episode. We're not going to mention it here, but God, that episode was terrible.
It was. I think one of my favorite moments is me calling Static Shock. So
That's one of my favorites
like,
too, because you're
still,
wrong.
Still to this,
You are wrong so often
often.
when it comes to predictions.
So often. Okay, it's because I think with my heart. I think with my heart. I don't predict with my brain, people. I go in my heart. I would love for this to happen. And whether it happens or not, it doesn't matter. But like, yeah, that's usually why most of my predictions are just so off. But yeah, that Static Shock prediction was like huge.
I'd like to think that from the first episode to now, we've gotten a lot better and more eloquent, one with our speaking, but also in our thought process of like logical deductive reasoning. We are still going to be emotionally led people when it comes to things from time to time, as I'll talk about one of my not so spectacular moments, but it still ends up being one of my favorite moments, being an emotional being that I am. I still feel like
the Robin Hood rant.
We'll talk about that.
Legendary Robin Hood rant. It was like we were we were watching and I was like, okay, we're gonna do this episode, and I know he's mad about it. Okay, I get it. That's fine. But then like we got on and you started going off and I like muted my mic and just sat there and laughed. I was like, I'm not gonna say anything for like 30 minutes here because this man is upset about Robin Hood.
That could transition us perfectly to some of our best moments / episodes. Episode 82 was 5 good things about Robin Hood. So prefaces. I grew up reading a lot of great illustrated classics. I read Robin Hood, Treasure Island, Three Musketeers, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, all those classics. So I really love Robin Hood, even to a lesser extent the one with the fox. You know, Josh's favorite movie because foxes.
It's okay. Look, all right. Anyway, I'm not going to defend that. I'm not even going to acknowledge. I love how over the years, yeah, like there's been the running jokes, like the if we had jars, doing the How to Train Your Dragon jar, the Iron Giant jar, or Josh is a furry. Like there's been that running gag for a while.
Oh, good, a third. But episode 82, I go into Robin Hood just going, I don't think I'm going to like this just because in the trailers, it doesn't look very much like a Robin Hood movie. But I also had seen Antoine Fuqua's King Arthur, which I didn't love, but it wasn't like the worst thing in the world. Also, that movie has got phenomenal music. So I'm like, I'll give it a shot. The unbridled rage that I felt with Robin Hood was so unparalleled. Like, guys, anybody that listened to the podcast right at like the time.
So funny. It was so funny for me because it's just a movie.
The thing is, everyone that listens to the podcast knows how much I hate Bob Chapek. Bob Chapek never made me as mad as Russell Crowe's Robin Hood did, ironically enough. Which is like the most backwards thing ever.
I just have a vivid memory of like sitting like after we ended the call, and I just like sat there for a second. I was like,
he's a madman.
We'll see if we lose some followers. Let's see if we'll lose some followers on that. I guess I don't know. It was one of those like it came from a very passionate and well-meaning place because like that that Robin Hood is not good. And like not in the sense of like, oh yeah, it's not good, but there's stuff to appreciate about it. Like even one of the more I think the more positive when it comes to movies of the two of us.
Depends.
I was like, but yeah, it depends on the movie. I think actually, I was like, yeah, this is tough, dude. I don't know this, but like seeing you go off like that was like, all right, sure.
There's things about as like movie making wise were bad, but then there's purely pedantic BS of just like his name should be Little John because he's a giant man and it's ironic. They don't even get the right green. It's supposed to be Lincoln green. It's described many times in the book. You get the one color wrong. Or the Joker of the Robin Hood universe.
He like his last name's not even is not even Loxley until the end, and it's because he
stole
takes like
my iconic line. He stole some other guy's name because just like this, because it's indicative of this franchise, Dead, he steals it from someone else's name.
Like Maid Marian is not even like she's not a princess or anything like that. Like I think isn't King John's barely involved in the movie. It's like mostly just like
it's
just
Oscar Isaac and the sheriff of Nottingham is the one that's barely in it, but King John. King Richard dies, so there's no hope.
Yes.
There's always the hope that King Richard could someday come back and take the throne back from John. King Richard dies.
They just like take all of the things that could be good about about the Robin Hood movies. Even like the Terrence Egerton one is like it's fine. It tries to do some new stuff. It doesn't really work, but like at least they're trying. Whereas this is just like no. You know all the things you love about Robin Hood. Let's take them away. All the hope and all the fun and joy and like the cool stuff about how punk rock the original Robin Hood is. Where it was like, yeah, screw the government, screw the man. Like we're taking the money and giving it back to the poor, man. Like this is so punk rock. And then like that the Kevin Costner one is just like, yeah, I just like stealing stuff.
And then
the balls on these people.
The runner-up when it comes to rant has to be when Josh implied heavily that Wonka killed the kids in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, to which do not get me on that soapbox again.
Because here's the thing, it does get to a point with our friendship that like I know which topics are very touchy for you, and so sometimes if I'm just like I need some adventure in my life, I'll poke and prod a little bit, even though I know I'm wrong. I know for a fact that like this is
so
not
now
what
he
I
admits
believe.
He's wrong. Here at the end of all things.
But yeah, that rant was definitely just me going, "Hey Nathan, you wanna yell about something?"
Just like how I triggered Josh when I said the Pokemon is essentially just trained slaves.
Okay, I mean yes, but that's not the point.
But
in retrospect, I don't know if I'm trying to remember. I don't remember having any like big rant, not to that level at least. Maybe. No, I'm not remembering. I just don't yell a lot, I guess. Coming from the guy that used to yell for a living.
You don't yell on the podcast. You mellow out about things that people shouldn't really get too worked up about. You'll get loud.
Yeah.
That transitions me to episode 150. Our HHN trip episode.
Yeah.
Josh can get loud. There just has to be a 10-foot man or twins in front of him.
Golly, that 10-foot guy, like, okay, look, to be fair, to be perfectly clear here, in that house, everything was fantastic, right? Was loving it. And like the first 10-foot guy like happens and you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. It didn't really get me. But then like the last one happens and he's like legitimately 20 feet tall and like chasing you out of the house. And I was like, no, sir, we are not doing this. No.
Or when I pushed you into those twins.
Oh, I almost killed you. Right then.
Apparently, small children frighten Josh, which explains a lot of his personal choices in life.
That's actually the real reason I'm not dating anybody, because I don't want to have the opportunity to make children, because children terrify me.
It's not like you haven't been in a relationship with someone with a kid before.
Okay, but that little girl, I thought... Yeah, true. But like that little girl just looked like somebody's kid. Like I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was a scare actor. So like when it turned,
watch it wasn't a scare actor.
Like, yeah. Watch it really was just literally just somebody's kid trying to scare people. Like Oh my gosh. I just like she turned around and had this like zombie face. I was like, oh nope, 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 nope.
She turned around.
I turned around and I turned around and I turned around.
Hopefully Josh can come back for a Horror Nights
Hopefully.
someday. This year is probably gonna be mobbed. Announce something, Horror Nights, you cowards. Also, now Josh could be a part of the HHN community because he's on Twitter and he can enjoy the chaos that comes from Twitter.
We'll see how much longer that lasts. Let me be real with you.
That's true.
It is so much nonsense on Twitter.
Yeah. So I talked about how it took us a little bit of videos, not very long though, to get our groove. But I think the WWE DC video is where we really found our chemistry and found our groove for videos. For podcasts, there's one early-ish episode 12, that I remember specifically when we wrapped. You and I were like, that was a good one. There's some episodes that once we're done, we're just like, all right, see you next week. And others when we're just like, that was chaotic and bizarre and wonderful. And I think our first one of those of like really hitting our stride chemistry-wise and just understanding the formula of the show was episode 12, Best Combat Sports Movies.
Oh my god.
When we talked about Here Comes the Boom.
Dude, it's so funny to me that like one of the movies, the genres of movies I'm passionate about is the combat sports, because I remember like
doesn't surprise me at all.
I mean, yeah, but like I have a vivid memory in college when Nesla was like, how can you can't watch that many, there's not that many good martial arts movies, Josh. Like you can't watch one, you can't do a martial arts month like you could with horror movies. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. And literally wrote out like 3 months worth of a list if you watched like one every night of like good martial arts movies. But yeah, that was, gosh, I was just sitting down and like freaking out about like how Here Comes the Boom has no reason to be as good as it is, but it's so much fun. Like, oh my gosh. That was before Southpaw too, wasn't it?
I don't think so.
Or at least the Creed movies.
At least before the second one, because I remember like episode 3 might have been us talking about the Creed 2 trailer.
Oh yeah.
So
wow. Oh wow. Okay. Geez. Yeah,
our first episode was talking about can video game adaptations work, in which case we actually remade that episode years later because the state of video games changed. And then look how far we've come. Episode 2 is us talking about Captain Marvel and good trailers. I'm going, good trailers to bad movies. I stand by that. I still think this is our longest one, provided we don't come back and have a uber long episode someday. Our Avengers Endgame spoiler discussion episode was a long one, but not as long as episode 83, ranking the MCU. Why did we do this? This is a very long episode. Like,
I don't know why.
We had news topics.
I don't know why we tried to do that on a podcast.
We had news topics that week too. That's like if we're really slow this week, we'll do it then. And then we just had the balls to talk about the movies instead of just listing them. That would have gone by so much faster. And even then, there were still at least like 20 or 21 movies at that point in time just going, in retrograde, this is probably a bad idea.
Yeah, Mercury definitely didn't approve of that. Little background. Sometimes we just do ideas and not really think about how they're going to come out and just go, all right, we're going to wing this because we don't really have a lot of time to discuss like the writing of this and how we want it to play out. What a poor discussion. What a poor idea for us to do. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Cause we like disagreed a whole lot too, because
you still hate Civil War.
Civil War is terrible. What is it? Age of Ultron is nowhere as good as it should have been. We don't want to go down that road again, but yeah.
But now, Captain America: Civil War is not the worst MCU movie by any stretch of the imagination. Now it's Thor: Love and Thunder by a wide margin. That movie can rot in hell. I hate that movie. Two episodes that I always kind of lump together, and they're ones that I go back and listen to a lot just because I enjoyed how we made them and how we went about them, are two of the ones that took the most time to make, so y'all better enjoy them. but there were any of the creative writing episodes. So episode
Yeah.
140 was rebooking the DCU, or what episode 151 rebooting the Universal Monsters. I really like how we had such drastically different story approaches. Like they kind of started similar both ways and then branched off to do their own thing. Josh and I both really love creative writing. I'll give an update on Nightwing here in a little bit here. But that's my version of creating writing. Hey, remember how we were going to do Pitch Off and make that a series? And then we realized...
We really tried. We really did try. It was just so much work.
Oh, now you know the struggle that comes with my Nightwing videos.
Yeah. Well, it was part of it was like... I still like the idea of Pitch Off. I still like the idea of us being like, okay, we're both going to pitch two separate versions of this and let fans dictate which one they like better. The issue of it comes when that means each of us is doing basically a Nightwing video each on the same topic. And it just, and like at the time too, my editing, I still to this day is not that great. So like I had to shoot it and then kind of give it to you in the sense, which a lot of times is what I do. And so it ended up being just more stuff on your plate. And it was like, this is a lot of work for not a lot of payoff. So,
but also like, if I'm being honest, like I put a lot of effort into that Fantastic Four pitch off. But even then, that was like half speed compared to the first Nightwing video, but especially compared to the second one. So we could talk about it a little bit here just because I don't know what other platform we will get to talk about it. The whole thing is trimmed down. So I'm approaching this one from an editing perspective differently than the first one because I could say it now. The first video was like 23, 24 minutes. I'm trying to remember. This one's 49 minutes. It's almost an hour long, and there's nothing I can really think to cut because it's all, to me at least, interwoven pretty well. There's no characters or scenes that are wasted, I think. But how I'm editing this is like I did multiple takes and make sure I get the right takes. But also because there's a bunch of scenes, I wanted to go back through the project and highlight each scene a different color. That way, when I'm going in and finding and dropping in assets, I can just go in per the scene as opposed to the gigantic 50-minute timeline. And so far, that has made things a whole heck of a lot faster to do that. All 21 scenes of the movie.
Jeez.
So yeah, I found a whole bunch of music. I found a whole bunch of images. Now it's just actually putting it all in and see what gaps I still have for it. So, not to shameless promote, but my goal is to have it done by the end of June. That would be my pie in the sky.
Nice.
That'd be my pie in the sky goal. But I always underestimate how long something's gonna take. So we can kind of, Josh, do you have any non-spoilery questions that we want to dive into? This, well, I have some form of platform just because I want to talk about it, but at the same time I don't want to give too much away.
I am just excited just to see what you do in the second one. I would absolutely because I think you said that you're gonna have a last time on Nightwing kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a 4-minute recap. I've basically uber compressed the first one, but I would still recommend if people haven't seen the first one in a while to go back and watch that one. I did lament to Josh this thing that I'm sure other writers are familiar with, ones that are professionals and much better than me. You think you have this great original idea, and you're just like, oh, that's a great line of dialogue. And then later, you realize you had heard that line before, and your subconscious tried to trick you into thinking it was an original idea, because there's a line of dialogue that I'm just like, oh, I'm super proud of that line. As I'm grabbing footage from various Blu-rays, I'm just going, gosh, dang it, Terrace said that in the Judas Contract movie. Gosh, dang it. I'm gonna pretend that was real. Let's see if I can give any non-spoiler teases away. Takes place 2 years after the first movie. it's changed a lot over the years. Like I said, the last one was 2 years ago, which makes me feel kind of bad for how lazy I've been with it. But it's changed a lot. So I'll talk about it now because it was the original story direction, but it's not where it's going now. It was originally going to be Batman dies at the end of this second one before him and Nightwing could ever get closure from their breakup and whatnot, from their split partnership. And then the third one would be Dick becoming Batman.
Nice.
I'm not going that route anymore. Spoiler alert, Batman and Alfred both are going to stay alive this entire trilogy, because I did flirt with the idea of killing Alfred at one point in this trilogy. I'm going, I hate that they did in the comics, so I can't pretend that I would do it any better.
Yeah.
But I think I found a way to thematically make things more impactful while not killing any important characters, because I already did that in the first one. And there's going to be some thematic parallels that I'm glad tie together better than I thought from the first one. I'm just like, oh, this weaves in with the first one, and I didn't intend for that to happen. It's like poetry, it rhymes.
Boo.
I think this one's just also double in length because I flesh out more scenes as opposed to, and then it was a fight, and then this happens. Like, actually going more into the explanations of why I chose specific narrative choices and things like that. And also I think I'm a better editor now.
Yeah, and I think you're a better writer now too. Is you've got more kind of projects under your belt, and there's definitely a little bit more skill and like understanding. Like, oh, I could just say there's a fight here, or I can describe it, and I can have dialogue intermitted throughout it and stuff like that. So like, I definitely think you've changed. Your skills have grown quite a bit in 2 years, considering the kinds of projects you and I have tried to put out.
Yeah, that's why I'm just like, I'm still gonna be uber, like, I don't want to say like OCD, but basically OCD. I'm just like, let me move this section of audio 3 frames to the right just a little bit more, so there's just a little bit more spacing here. That's why I'm just like, I want to get it done with June. But yeah, I'm just very particular about stuff. It's like, this is good music, but could I find better music to accent this scene type of thing? And also,
but like that's what like good movie editing is about, though. Is like, okay, cool. Like this story beat is great. Would it be better if we left a pause here, or would it be better if we sped it up? Like stuff like that. Like you're discovering stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's just a lot more. There's more just emotional complexity and symbolism, I think, this time around that I'm really like proud of just going, oh, I inadvertently set this up in the first one without really even thinking about it. And once again, I need to not get ahead of myself because I'm already thinking too much about the third one. I know what the end goal is, and I'm really happy with the end goal. But getting back and closing out the podcast, there's one more episode that we can't not talk about when we talk about our defining moments on this show. Josh, do you remember what episode 199 is?
Was it the one that I was hard for The Rock?
It might have been
one of my greatest faux pas ever. The Rock is hard for me, and like didn't even think about it. I think we had to like pause the recording because you could not hold it together.
No. Episode 199 was a fulfillment of a promise. I'll say that.
Oh, the Jar Jar Binks episode! Let's go! Honestly, yeah, like that was some of the most fun I think you and I have had in a long time.
Just if you say so.
It was something different. It was a challenge. I mean, see,
it was bonkers. It was bonkers.
It was bonkers and crazy and chaotic. But like, I mean, I know I had fun. I'm pretty sure you had fun just looking at all and like having like. Seeing you go from this is stupid, I hate this theory, to what ended up happening in the episode where you were like, I hate that this kind of makes sense and that there's actual like a lot of support like story wise for it. Like seeing you go from that from those two just oh my goodness, you know what? I'm not going to say try to use big words. Seeing you go from those two positions was hilarious, like in and of itself. Because I also went through that of like, I hate this idea. My brother decided to trap us into this. And now here we are. And to me, it's one of my favorite episodes that we've done, honestly.
It is, it is something. I'll say that. I'm more just like, dang it, people. You fulfilled our promise here. So we had to, I think it was what? Was it 700 subscribers by the end of a given year? Something like that?
Yeah. We're pretty proud of that.
Yeah, we're at like 824 now, so we continue to make good progress. The show has changed and evolved and a lot, and like I said, I never want this to fully be closing the book. In a few months, we could come back to this. We don't know, but for now, we're just gonna put things on hold. Just the podcast. Like I said, I'll still do news stuff. As far as content on the channel, it might look similar or more closely to what it was many years ago before the podcast, of random videos here and there of reviews, opinion related things, and movie news topics. It'll be a throwback, it'll be a change. But rest assured, if we ever do bring the podcast, it's still, the door's still open for that. We don't know. We don't know what the future holds. We could die. I don't know.
I'm not throwing away the mic.
You say that. If we ever decide to bring this back, we will be very loud about it, and we will let you all know. If there's one thing we were always terrible about with this podcast, that was advertising. We're so bad about promoting it. We've got a great podcast that we never tell anybody about.
Yeah.
But
and then we get on and I'm like talking about some of my favorite podcasts like over and over every week. And it's like
Dungeons and Daddies, like, people.
It's fantastic. Okay, shut up. Anyway, yeah, we've always been pretty bad about like advertising the podcast, but like if we ever come back, yeah, like absolutely, like it will make a better effort about that.
But we would have quit a long time ago, I think, if we didn't get the feedback from you guys. If we didn't feel like it was worth it, and by the end of the day, I feel like this was worth it. This was a taxing 4.5+ years, tiring 4.5 years, but entirely rewarding. I feel like I have grown a deeper appreciation of film, but following it as fervently as I have. But also, like, while I'm still in the movie bubble, being able to take a step back every once in a while and trying to be objective with it. We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I think we always try and pat ourselves in the back of trying to be as objective about a situation as possible. Like, we're still going to have biases like anybody else, but I think we always try and see big picture on things and not be so fanboyish with it. We're still accustomed to that. As I said, I hate Love and Thunder. That's my fanboyisms coming through through and through. But I think I have a deeper appreciation of film and the inner workings of that, but also the podcast world, of how much time and energy goes into the stuff that we enjoy. We hope you enjoyed this. I'll be honest. This is going to sound weird, but I don't. If this is the last episode, I can say it now. This podcast was never for any of you guys. Never. It was never for anybody listening to this. If you came along with us, I'm so incredibly thankful and glad you did. This was 100% me and 100% Josh. This is just for us to have some form of a safe haven when it comes to movies, to talk about stuff, to have a friendship, because if you've been to college and if you've gone through college, it's hard to keep friendships post-college when you're in adult life. And grabbing onto one little semblance of that every week, it's tiring, but it's rewarding. And I'm so glad for the relationship that Josh and I have been able to grow because of this show, and the memes that get spammed into my Instagram because of this show. Like I don't appreciate them all the time. They're the most random thing. Like I sent one to Josh today about sour cream and Oreos, and it was glorious.
I still giggle about the one I sent you about earlier this afternoon about the Sonic 3 Shadow Band. That was funny. Oh,
But
man.
yeah, it sounds narcissistic, but this video was always just about this podcast was always just about Josh and I doing something creative in a time in our lives when we didn't have anything else creative to do and needing friends. And we're really glad that people came along with us at the end of the day, and we were able to grow and learn more as film fans. And again, there's still going to be plenty of Uncharted Media related content. Like I said, I got Nightwing on the docket. I'll have reviews for The Flash, Across the Spider-Verse, Indiana Jones. Reviews won't stop. Videos won't stop. If anything, I want to do more videos once I'm done with Nightwing. That albatross hanging over my head, it makes me guilty whenever I want to do any other videos. So once that's done, I'll actually do other videos. But the podcast is just on hold for a little bit. Will it come back? We don't know. We don't know what the future holds. It might. Don't know. But if this is the end, let us say thank you for coming with us. We never expected to be here still after 224 episodes on a idea for a show that wasn't supposed to be anything. It wasn't even an idea. It was just something we wanted to throw together to have an escape, and you let us escape. So we will forever be thankful for that. So it's not goodbye. It's see you later. And once again, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.